Hi, it's author Ellie Alexander, and this is going to be a strange episode of 5 Things Friday. I think I'm going to call it episode 1 of Social Distancing Friday, but I have something special in store for you that I hope is going to brighten up your day a little bit, so stay tuned. My first question to you on this Friday is, how are you doing? How are you doing? I know that I am experiencing a wave of emotions, and I'm trying to just accept that and flow with the tears and also be present and try to share as much joy and positivity as we can, because the lesson in this experience right now is that we are all connected, more so than ever. For the past few days, I have been listening to concerts live on Instagram. Thank you, Coldplay. Thank you, Matt Nathanson. Thank you, Indigo Girls. They've been just a nice little getaway from my head and the fear and the worry that I know that we are all experiencing. I was thinking back to a week ago, and a week ago, I was planning for spring break. I thought at this point in time, I would be cheering on Oregon, my alma mater. I'm a huge sports fan. I don't know if we've talked about that before, but I love all sports, soccer, football, and basketball. It's March Madness. I was so excited to cheer on the men's and, most importantly, the women's team, who had a shot at a title and the most amazing season. I was thinking ahead to spring break adventures, and suddenly all of those plans got changed, as I'm sure they did for you too. And so one thing that I wanted to do today, the one thing that we're gonna do for this 5 Things Friday, is share a little gift with you. I'm gonna share that gift in the form of the newest book, Nothing Bundt Trouble. I just received ARCs in the mail, advanced reader copies. This book isn't out until the end of June. And I'm gonna do something today that I have definitely never done on social media, and that is read you the first chapter of this book. For you Bakeshop Mystery faithful, you're gonna get an early glimpse of what's to come in this book. The thing is, I rarely read from my books, even when I'm doing public-facing events. When I do library talks and bookstore visits and special events, I would say maybe 1% of the time I've ever read anything that I write, for a few reasons. One, because they're mysteries, so it's kind of hard because you don't want to give any spoilers, right? And also, it's just not my favorite thing. I wrote this book a year and a half, probably 2 years ago, and so I'm already 2 books ahead. I am right now, as we speak, working on book 13 of the Bakeshop Mysteries. So this book is in the past for me, and it is in the past, ha ha ha. So you're just gonna have to bear with me when we read this together, all right? But I thought, if nothing else, everybody needs a little cozy escape, and because these just arrived, let's just breathe in for a moment. You can close your eyes and just listen to me read the first chapter. And if I mess up, that's okay. I'm just gonna keep going, all right? Because I haven't read this book for a long time, so I'll be excited to see how it sounds. And I have to take my glasses off. Okay, here we go. Chapter 1, Nothing Bundt Trouble. They say that the future is mutable, that our choices and actions influence every outcome. That could be true, but the only way I was going to be able to embrace my future was to understand my past. Moving into my childhood home had quickly reacquainted me with years of long forgotten memories, like the hallway floorboards that squeaked with the lightest step. It was a good thing I had never tried to sneak out when I was a kid. There was no chance I would have been successful. Maybe that's why my dad had never bothered to fix the creaky floor. After he died, I guessed that loose pieces of hardwood were low on Mom's priority list. So here I was, almost 20 years later, tiptoeing down the hallway in my slippers, trying to avoid the squeaky sections of the floor. My parents' house, now my house, was tucked in amongst towering ponderosa pines, sequoias, aspen, and blue spruce trees on the aptly named Mountain Avenue in Ashland, Oregon. The view from the back deck offered a panorama of Grizzly Peak and the sepia-toned hillsides across the valley. As a kid, I had always felt like I lived in a treehouse. I would fall asleep watching the spindly branches of the pine trees waving in the window and staring up at a star-drenched sky. When Mom and her new husband, the professor, had offered to pass the house on to me, I resisted. It wasn't because I didn't love the house, quite the opposite. It was that I didn't want to take advantage of their generosity. They had done so much for me since I had returned home to Ashland. However, they had made it clear that keeping the house in the family was important to them. After their wedding last summer, they had opted to leave both of their old worlds behind and start a new life together on the wind-swept banks of Immigrant Lake. I hadn't seen Mom this happy in years. Her enthusiasm was contagious. For the past week, she'd been over every day helping me unpack boxes and rearrange some of the furniture she left behind. The holidays were behind us, which meant I actually had time to focus on organizing my new space. Ashland is a tourist destination and a mecca for theater lovers. When the Oregon Shakespeare Festival is in season, there's never a dull moment at Tort, our family bake shop. Most small businesses in town, myself included, know that there's a small window of time each year to plan a tropical getaway or tackle the lists of tasks that fell by the wayside during the rush of tourist season. Rather than jetting off to a sunny island or trekking through the snowy Siskiyou Mountains, I had decided to use the downtime to officially move in. Since I had spent nearly a decade sailing from port to port in my position as head pastry chef for the Armoire of the Seas, I hadn't had a need to accumulate things, which made unpacking a breeze. My move had consisted of packing my clothes, my collection of cookbooks, and my kitchen tools. The apartment I had been renting above Elevation, an outdoor store on the plaza, just a few doors down from the bake shop, had come fully furnished. My challenge now was finding enough furniture to fill the 4-bedroom house. Mom had left a few pieces of mission-style furniture, including a large dining room table and chairs, a couch, side tables, a coffee table, and desk. I'd been sleeping on my old twin bed in what had been my childhood bedroom. Mom converted it into a sewing room when I left for culinary school. I figured it was probably time to graduate to an adult bed, so I had ordered a custom queen-size 4-poster bed and mattress. It was due to arrive this afternoon, and I couldn't wait. As if on cue, the doorbell rang. I went down the oak staircase to answer the door. "Hello, darling!" My friend Lance stood on the porch holding a bouquet of pale white roses dotted with greenery in one hand and an expensive-looking toolkit in the other. "You're early." I greeted him with a kiss on the cheek and showed him inside. Lance had offered to come help me set up the bed and dressers. Better early than late. He handed me the flowers as I shut the door behind him. "I figured I should be here to oversee the delivery. We wouldn't want the delivery crew to ding up the walls now, would we?" "No," I chuckled. "Imagine the horror." Lance set his toolkit in the entryway and tugged off his charcoal wool coat. Beneath the coat, he wore a pair of perfectly cut slacks, a cornflower blue shirt, and expensive leather shoes. He hung the coat on a rack by the door. "You jest, Juliet, but you will thank me later." "I'm sure I will." I pointed down the hallway to the kitchen. "Come on in. I'll put these in water." I was in my usual weekend attire, a pair of fleece yoga pants, thick, cozy cabin socks, and my favorite well-worn fleece hoodie. I had acquired the two-toned yellow and gray hoodie with front pockets and cow neck from a vintage shop in the plaza not long after I had returned home to Ashland. There hadn't exactly been much of a need for fleece clothing or wool socks on a cruise ship. We walked to the kitchen where sunlight flooded the room. The original pressed glass windows reflected a greenish glow from the trees outside. I had planted a row of herbs above the sink that were just beginning to sprout. "I see you've wasted no time getting the kitchen organized," Lance noted, pointing to the display of cookbooks near the 6-burner gas stove and my copper my copper pots hanging on a wire rack above the butcher block island. "It's my happy place. I had to start here." I filled a vase with water and arranged the roses. Trust me, we are all the better that the kitchen is your happy place. Lance lifted the lid on my canary yellow Dutch oven. My Lord, what smells so divine? That's meatball soup for later. I couldn't beg for your assistance without feeding you. I made a batch of butter rolls, a simple Italian salad, and a bitter chocolate cake. If your handyman skills are really as good as you claim, then I just might feed you when we're done. I tried to wink. For a spread like that, you can work these muscles to the bone, Lance flexed. He was naturally lanky with a thin frame and angular features. I rested the vase of roses on the island. How are things at the theater? Are you getting ready for the new season? Lance undid the top button of his pale blue shirt and rolled up the sleeves. It's fine. Have you heard the news about the cabaret? That's where the drama is these days. No, I poured us cups of French press that had been steeping. What's going on? Despite Ashland's small population at around 20,000 residents, the entire Rogue Valley was ripe with talent. There were dozens of theaters, large and small, music venues, and countless pubs and restaurants that offered a range of entertainment from open mic to stand-up comedy and poetry reading. Our little hamlet was truly an oasis of entertainment. On any given night, you can take in a fun, raucous musical at the cabaret or catch a serious production of Shakespeare Under the Stars on the Elizabethan stage. The new owners have taken over, Lance said. Truly wonderful people, such great vision. They're a young couple from LA and they've been on the scene for years. I can't wait to see how they transform the cabaret over the next few years. Cream, I asked, pointing to the pitcher resting on the island. Always. Lance looked miffed that I had even asked. What's the issue then? I poured a generous splash of heavy cream into Lance's coffee and swirled it into the dark brew. Where to start? The stage has been rife with emotion. I never should have agreed to provide my expertise. I blame it on my benevolent nature. You are so kind and so humble. I poured myself a cup of the French press. I truly am. Sometimes I astound myself at my generosity. Lance raised his mug in a toast to himself. I mean, after all, it is my duty to give them a lay of the land here in Ashlandia, so to speak. But I hadn't counted on the fact that I would be spending so much time hand-holding and refereeing petty arguments. I've been burning the midnight oil running back and forth between campus and the cabaret. You should have told me that you've been busy. I never would have asked you to come help me put furniture together. Lance dismissed me with a flick of the wrist. Nonsense, darling. I never would pass up an opportunity to spend a day with you. Plus, I need a reprieve from Mamma Mia for a few. If I hear that song again, my ears are going to bleed. Gross. I shuddered at the thought. The cabaret had been running its latest production, Mamma Mia, to sold-out audiences for a month. I had read in the paper that they had extended the show due to high demand. Don't ruin it for me. I bought tickets for Mom and Me for next week. You'll love it. It's an absolutely fabulous production. And Amanda, the new artistic director, her use of space and set design is nothing short of brilliant. If you've seen it 15 times, though, those catchy musical numbers begin to stick in your head. Lance shoved his finger in his ear and pretended to rub away the lyrics. I can't wait. I scored front row seats and I'm surprising Mom with dinner too. The cabaret served a full dinner menu and drool-worthy desserts and cocktails as part of the show. It added to the ambiance of its intimate setting in an old, refurbished church. Seeing shows at the cabaret had been a family tradition. My parents were friends with the original owner and had helped launch the new theater when I was young. As long as the cast and crew don't implode in the next week, you'll be fine. That sounded ominous, but the doorbell also sounded, interrupting our conversation. That must be my furniture. We left our coffees and went to show the delivery crew where everything went. Lance removed a tape measure from his toolkit and proceeded to direct the poor delivery guys as if they were actors in his company. Fortunately, they had a good sense of humor and played along when he stopped to measure each door frame before allowing them to bring my bed upstairs. It didn't take long for the crew to unload the boxes, and when they were done, I offered them homemade Amish sugar cookies. And then Lance and I got to work on the hard part, assembly. "These floors are magnificent," Lance commented as he placed a piece of painter's tape to mark the spot where each of the 4 posters would be placed. "They don't make hardwood like this anymore. It's all manufactured and processed laminate." "Is this oak?" He massaged the smooth surface of the shiny floor. "Yeah, it was already here when my parents bought the house, but they had to have the floors sanded and stained. The house was not in great condition when they bought it, but guess what they paid for it back in the 80s? Lance made another X with the tape and moved near the window. "Do I even want to ask?" "Probably not. Mom showed me the original deed, and I honestly thought she was pranking me. They bought this house, which is over 2,000 square feet on a 10,000 foot square lot, for $15,000. Can you believe that?" "No, I can't. Don't even ask me what I paid for my place." He made a choking motion. Lance's house was on Scenic Drive, one of the nicest streets in Ashland. Given its size, ornately manicured grounds, and views, I would guess that he paid close to $1 million. Housing and prices in Ashland had skyrocketed in the last decade. Even cute cottages in the railroad district were selling for $500,000 or more. Many of Ashland's restaurant and hotel workers had been priced out of the city. They couldn't afford the rising rent costs or the down payment for a tiny 2-bedroom fixer-upper for prices that would normally be found in a city like San Francisco or Seattle. It was an ongoing source of stress for Mom and me. We paid our team at Tort a fair wage, but even with that, many of our staff had been priced out of Ashland's rental market. "I think we're ready to start arranging the slats for the base," Lance announced, balancing a stack of narrow slats of wood. Surprisingly, the bed went together more easily than I had expected. In less than an hour, we had managed to assemble it, 2 dressers, and a nightstand. I stood back to inspect our work. The master bedroom was a good size, with 2 rectangular windows on either side of the bed, a skylight, and an adjoining bathroom with a clawfoot tub and a basin sink. "What do you think?" Lance brushed dust from his hands. "I love it." The 4-poster bed had a romantic vibe with its white finish, raised panel detailing on the head and footboards, and tapered legs. I had painted the bedroom a bright slate gray. The contrast of the white bed with the oak floors and the gray walls gave the room almost a coastal feel. I planned to drape sheer fabric across the posters and accent the wall with art from my global travels. "It feels like you," Lance agreed. "You need a large floor rug, though, and you should replace that light fixture with something romantic." He pointed to the basic light fixture above the bed. "Something black with candles to add a touch of drama, yes?" "Yeah, that's a good idea." "And plants, darling. For the love of God, please get yourself some plants." "Deal." I piled up the cardboard boxes to recycle. "Are you ready for a dinner break?" "Oh, I thought you would never ask." I punched him in the shoulder. "Just for that, I'm going to make you take this stack of recycling down." Lance hauled the cardboard outside while I finished dinner. I ladled the hearty meatball soup into bowls and removed the rolls from the oven. Then I poured us each a glass of white wine and tossed the salad in a garlic vinaigrette. "Thanks for your help. I could not have done that without you," I said, setting our dinner on the island. Lance raised his wine glass to me. "Don't sell yourself short. There's nothing you can't do, Juliet. We both know that. But here's to new beginnings." To new beginnings, we clinked our glasses. "This house suits you," Lance noted, glancing around the warm kitchen with yellow accents. "In that comfy yet impressively stylish outfit with your dewy cheeks in this marvelous kitchen, I feel like I'm in a spread for Sunset magazine." "Stop!" I rolled my eyes and blew on my soup. "Although I do agree with you about the house. I thought it might be weird at first, coming home literally, but I love it. It feels right." "What are you going to do with the rest of the empty rooms upstairs?" No idea. Do you know anyone looking for a room to rent? I've been thinking about renting out to a couple SOU students maybe. The truth was that the house was way too big for me. The main floor had a living room, dining room, kitchen, half bath, and office. Upstairs was the master plus 2 additional bedrooms, and there was a full unfinished basement. My former apartment could probably fit in the kitchen and dining room alone. Don't do that yet. Who knows what will happen with that tall, dark, and devilishly handsome husband of yours? Wasn't there talk at the holidays of him coming to Ashland for a more permanent trial? Permanent and trial seemed to be in opposition to me. In some ways, that summed up my relationship with Carlos. We had been living apart for 2 years. When I had left him on the ship, I didn't look back. I had thought that my decision to leave was likely the end for us, but Carlos hadn't given up that easily. He had been trying to convince me that we weren't star-crossed lovers. We had spent a magical holiday season together when he and Ramiro showed up on my doorstep, or rather Mom's doorstep, on Christmas Eve. They had stayed through the new year, taking in all that Ashland had to offer, from ice skating at the seasonal rink in Lithia Park to snowshoeing on Mount A, and long, lazy days spent in front of a roaring fire, playing board games and drinking cups of Carlos's signature dark hot chocolate with a hint of cinnamon and spice. Being from Spain, Ramiro had never experienced a white Christmas. His joy was contagious. I couldn't contain a grin watching him engage in epic snowball battles with Andy and Sterling, and dressing in so many layers that he could barely move. Having them in town had been easy, seamless, as if that's how our life had always been. But before I knew it, the week was over, and they were packing their bags to catch a flight back to Spain. Carlos left me with a parting kiss and a promise that he would return soon. Mi querida, do not cry. I will be here with you soon. Everything has been arranged. I will take a 6-week leave from the ship and come to be with you. Our future is the only thing that matters to me, see? I had kissed him goodbye and promised to work out the details. As to our future, I still wasn't sure. There was one thing that I knew. Ashland was home. I had put down roots and had no intention of leaving. I loved Carlos too, so much so that being apart from him had left a lingering ache that I wasn't sure would ever fully heal. I knew that we couldn't drag things out forever. It was time for us to make a decision about our future, and the only way to do that was for him to come to Ashland and stay. I desperately wanted things to work with us. Having Carlos and Ramiro in Ashland would be perfection. But was it nothing more than a fantasy? My inner voice had been nagging me for a while now. I wasn't sure that Carlos was meant to be somewhere small. He was made for the world. Maybe it was one of the reasons I'd been living in limbo. If Carlos was away at sea, I could pretend like he still belonged to me. If he came to Ashland and didn't love it, then I was opening my heart to breaking all over again. Mom had told me once that love was always worth the risk. I had a feeling I was soon going to learn the depths of that risk. Okay, there it is, the first chapter of Nothing Bundt Trouble. This book comes out in a few months, but I just wanted to have a moment of sharing with you today because I know that we're all feeling tender, and nothing heals me more than reading and music and creating. I'm trying to think of as many creative ways to share with you in the days and weeks and months or whatever it is ahead as we are all doing our part as a community to protect those around us. I have been sharing this week on my social media a choose your own adventure of sorts, a build your own mystery, maybe that's a better term for it. Each day I've been posing a question and having you vote and comment and share your thoughts, and we are going to write collectively a spin-off Bakeshop Mystery together. I'm so excited about it, and it has been bringing me such joy and such a happy distraction during these unsettling times. I would also love to hear if you have any other thoughts, ideas, suggestions, What would be helpful for you? What would you like me to be sharing? I'm so grateful for this community that we have already established together. And while we're having to be distant from one another, I want to make sure that we stay connected. So in the comments, please share anything that you would like me to share in the weeks ahead, whether that's more baking together, whether it's reading book stuff, whatever is going to bring you comfort, please let me know, because I would like to be any small part of providing positive, creative distractions right now. And it's really important that we stay connected. So with that in mind, take tender care of yourself and those around you.